And hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk. We tried doing the live stream earlier. My apologies. We had an internet connection problem. So basically, I'm doing kind of a wrap up for those of you who were cut off in the middle of the feed. Didn't want to think that I, jumped out. Just apologize for the technical issues. But we'll do basically a quick summary of like my thoughts on the game, some of the recent moves, but then we'll also get into my thoughts on what the Jets did this week and get your questions and comments about this week below. So make sure if you're joining us to comment, if you're joining us after the live stream, make sure to subscribe so you'll miss our latest live stream. And of course, make sure to put your comments in the video and I will answer them in a future video. So look, I think this is a must-win game for the Jets, like for multiple reasons. I know the obvious and the emotional reason for Jet fans is because of the 13 straight losses, because of the Patriots' dominance over the Jets the last decade and really the last 20-something years. But to me, it goes beyond that. Like, this is a great opportunity for this team to help in their playoff because, like, as a good team, you need to beat teams you are better than. And on the remainder of the schedule, the Jets, there's only a couple games where you clearly feel they're the better team, and this is one of them. And look, a lot of this is going to fall on Zach. Zach played a lot better last week, but Zach really just cannot kill this team because I think this defense, the special teams can beat the Patriots. However, Zach Wilson making back-breaking mistakes cannot beat this Patriot team. He cannot be turning the football over. I think you're going to see a lot of this team run the football, sticking with the run. James Robinson gets an extra week of practice, gets an extra week of recovery. But the offensive line is going to be tested. And look, they're banged up right now. Nate Herbig has appeared on the injury report. That's one of the reasons I love the Laurent Duvernay-Tardif signing. I think it's a great addition. I think he can start if they need it. Hopefully Herbig can make it through the remainder of the season. But look, like the biggest disappointment for me is Max Mitchell. While healthy, it appears the Jets are not going to play him this week. They want him to get another week of practice under his belt before coming back. So while that's a good thing long-term for this Jet team, it does hurt them in the short term. And let's also be frank, too, with this offensive line. I mean, the biggest problem now, I think, is George Fant, which is it's a gut punch because Fant, when healthy, has been a really good tackle for this team. And this injury, I think, is a lot worse. And I think that there's something that people aren't telling us. I don't know if it's a chronic knee injury. I don't know if it's something that it just keeps continuing to linger. But this is someone that it's been an injury that's lingered the entire offseason. I think it's a big reason why the Jets didn't give Fant an extension. And look, I don't know if Fant's plays last down as a New York Jet, but it's starting to trend that way because the feeling was and the way they were talking was the hope was he would be back for this game. And it doesn't appear like Fant has any timetable. Other injury news, of course, Corey Davis out for this week, another frustrating one, another day-to-day injury we're hoping would be resolved. Davis brings them a big target, but does give Denzel Mims another great opportunity for this team. But I see a couple of chats, so let's get to your questions, guys. And if you're in the chat, please let us know. Also, if you know Jet fans, just let them know about our channel. We want to get as many people in here as possible. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Pats to win this week. After this, they have 4 straight primetime games. Yeah, Braden, like this is a great opportunity for the Jets, but you just know the narrative. If the Jets lose this game, the Patriots still have the Jets number. The Patriots are still in the Jets' head. They can't win at Foxborough. Belichick still owns the Jets. Like, you want to pull those narratives to bed. And I keep saying that this has been a year about a checklist. And while the playoffs were at the top of the list coming into the season, I said, look, there's boxes you need to check off. Winning in September, that was something the Jets hadn't done in years, and they were able to check that box. Winning in the AFC, they've checked that box against the Dolphins. Winning against a truly superior team or a Super Bowl contender, they checked that box with the Bills win. Like, really the last big box in the AFC East is, can they beat the Patriots? Because you also want to send a message to the Patriots that not only are they no longer the Patriots, but they're the 4th team in this division. Buffalo is well ahead of them. Dolphins are well ahead of them. And even the Jets are well ahead of them. And look, I don't think that it's clear the Jets have a more talented football team. They have the better defense. I think they have the better special teams. They just need to execute, not make mistakes. And if they didn't have crippling mistakes like they did in the first time, the Jets win that football game. And I think that's where a lot of the anger and the frustration came from about that last game against the Patriots, was because the Jets were the better team. The Jets played the better game, but they didn't come out with the victory. And I think that's why the Jet fans were incredibly frustrated and why I saw a lot of frustration and anger in the chat. And look, I completely got it. I understood where Jet fans were coming from. And I was like, you know what? Jet fans have every right to be pissed. They didn't play. They should have been able to win that football game, and they weren't able to close it out. So, but the Jets, the one thing about the Jets is they've been a great road team. They're one of the few remaining undefeated road teams. They like playing that us against the world mentality. And look, I think there's going to be extra juice for guys on this team after the blowout last year. We all know I was there live for that 54-13 drubbing in Foxborough. And I remember at halftime, they were putting someone in the ring. I believe it was Willie McGinnis. It was one of the defensive linemen from that great, the Patriot dynasty of the early 2000s. And he basically made the comment, like, this is the homecoming game. Like, I want to come for our homecoming game against the Jets. And being a Jet fan in that crowd, it just was brutal because you just knew that the Jets were injured. They were outgunned. And just seeing the Patriots just thumbing their nose at the Patriots. And look, I do think Jet fans partially got a little bit overhyped for the first game, which was, I kept seeing it on all like the New York stations, like, oh, the Jets got to beat them by 40 points. I'm like, look, Jets are a better team, but it's not like the Jets offense is humming. The Jets have a lot of injuries. And look, for people that are expecting Zach Wilson to put up 300 yards and 4 touchdowns a week, I don't think that's reasonable. And a lot of it's too, the Jets have had a lot of injury issues on the offense. Like, if I was to tell any NFL team right now, I'm taking away your best offensive lineman, your best offensive playmaker, and realistically, one of their more reliable receivers in Corey Davis. If I was to take away one of your top 4, I'm taking away those from your offense. I think any quarterback would struggle. Like, if I went down to Tampa and I took Leonard Fournette and I took Tristan Wirfs off of Brady's team, I don't think they'd be doing the same thing. Mahomes is great, but if I took away Travis Kelce and I took away one of their best offensive linemen, like, I mean, the Jets didn't just lose good offensive pieces. They lost 2 potential all-pro talents in Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker. And when that happens, it drastically impacts what you can do offensively. We need to win the turnover battle, and Zach is pressured, and I hope he makes a smart decision and whatever that may be. But look, I think the Jets adjusted. They ran the football a lot more. They got the ball out quick. They're telling Zach, like, I want to see Zach go through his progressions a lot more, but the problem with the Patriots is you can't really go through your progressions. Like, I would say, look, 1-2 read, take off, 1-2 run. And look, I want Zach to run this game. Make them respect the fact that he's willing to run, because I always go back to the 4th and 5th play in that game where the Patriots had no respect for his ability to run because of the constant backpedal, because of his not being able to step in the pocket. If Zach steps up in the pocket, you need to prove you can run for a couple reasons. Number one, it shows you can make plays. But number 2, it helps with the pressure, because if the pass rushers have to maintain their rushing lanes because of your ability to run, it does help your offensive line. But if you're not running and not using your legs, and these pass rushers can go any way they want, it makes it more difficult for your offensive line. And on top of all of this, you look at that play, like that 4th and 5th play where they had like the Red Sea open in the middle of the field and Zach didn't take off. So I want to see Zach run a lot more. Yep, 1-2 run from PCR. Yeah, 1-2 run, 1-2 run, runner throw, like throw it out of bounds. And look, they got to be quick. Like, utilize Elijah Moore, hopefully in the slot this week. And look, this is going to be, to me, a very telling game about Elijah Moore, because the Jets, they're like, Belichick does this. He will take away your favorite weapon. He did in the first game with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's great, but you know they're going to put the best corner and they're going to take him out basically of this game. So this is basically Elijah Moore's chance to step up, and we will see how he performs, how Zach Wilson targets him, how this team utilizes. We're going to learn a lot about Elijah Moore this week. And look, they took shots at him in the first game again with Denzel Mims, and they had opportunities. Like, this could be a big game for either Mims or Moore. Like, this could be a breakout game, because you know the Patriots are going to do everything they can to take Garrett Wilson off the field, because they know he's the Jets' best offensive weapon right now. They're going to take him away. So Zach's going to have to really find Mims. He's going to have to find Moore. He's going to have to find Berrios in order to move it. Yeah, I want to see Zach run too, just not backwards. Yeah, that was a lot better against the Bills, and that's the thing. And look, I know Zach doesn't want to get hit, but in some ways, taking a sack isn't the worst thing in the world. If you step up and take a negative 2-yard sack with your defense, that's not the end of the world. What is the end of the world is when you're running backwards negative 10 yards and then trying to throw like a Hail Mary play. Like, that gets you into trouble. And look, like, yeah, there's a difference. Like a 10-yard loss is a lot bigger than a 2-yard loss because it pushes your punter back, it pushes your field back. Like if you are at midfield and you take a sack of your own 40, you go from a chance to being pinning a team inside their 5 or 10 to probably pinning them around the 15. Like it's a really big difference. And especially in this type of game, it's going to be low scoring, it's going to be ugly, and it will be a game where I do think both these teams, it's going to be who can make mistakes. And look, Mac Jones, we know about that interception that got called back. Like Mac Jones did not look great against this Jet defense. Like the Jets can create turnovers in this game. And I think that's what they're going to really have to do in order to win this football game. And one thing I would like to see is the Jets defensive touchdown. We almost got in the first game. So I would like to see that a lot in the second, but we will, of course, have all the action after the game on this channel. So make sure you join us for the live stream with the reaction after. And look, I give this Jet team credit. They're still adding pieces. I love the Laurent Duvernay-Tardif signing, especially with the news about Nate Herbert being banged up, which is a big issue. And look, the Jets offense is limited right now because of the offensive line. I mean, they've lost their best offensive lineman, their 2 starting tackles. Dwayne Brown isn't 100%. You have Nate Herbig, who's been probably a big revelation at right guard, is now not 100%. So the Jets are going to be limited, but they still got to stick with the run. Even if it's not working early, stay with that run. I thought they got way too away from it early in the game against the Patriots last time, because Zach threw the ball 41 times. Even if you're down, because it's going to be at least a 1-possession game, I really feel like continue running the football. Like just keep running the ball, pounding that defense, wearing it out. And like you saw what happened to the Bills defense. The Bills defense was gassed and worn out in the second half because the Jets stuck with the run. They were physical. They pounded and pounded. And finally, they were breaking at the end of the game. Like that's what the Jets are going to have to do. And look, Matthew Judon is an unbelievable pass rusher. Matthew Judon is the Patriots' best weapon. To help you know what helps utilize that is when you're not in 3rd and long situations, when you're in 2nd and short, when you're running at them, when you're beating up on these pass rushers with your physicality. So, like, to me, the Jets have to run the ball, and shocker, run the football. So, but look, this is a game the Jets have to win. Like, the Jets' schedule has gotten tougher, and I don't think it's a horrible schedule. But I just look forward, like you would feel a lot better with this Jet team would be at 7-3 than 6-4 for a couple of reasons. Number one, if they go to 7-3, you move the Patriots down to 5-5. You take away that tiebreaker for them. But look, the Jets, it's not going to be easy. They get the Bears at home, they get the Lions at home, and I think those are 2 winnable games. I know Justin Fields has been great, but the Jets defense had limited Lamar Jackson. They're fast. They're going to take away the weapons. I think the Jets can win those games against the Lions and the Bears, but then you got some tough ones. Vikings on the road will be tough. I'm hoping it gets flexed to a primetime game. Bills in December on the road will be tough. Then you have the Jaguars at home. That will be an intriguing game. But the last 2 games of the season, like I want the Jets to be at 10 wins after the Jacksonville game. And if you get to 7-3 and you take care of business against the Bears, you take business against the Lions, you take care of business against the Jaguars, and home you're at 10 wins. And you feel a lot better going into the back half of the season where you have to go on the road to Seattle, which will be tough in their better team, and you have to go on the road to Miami. Now, Miami will always be tough. We don't know what playoff stakes will be on the line there, but for all we know, Dolphins might have locked up a number 1 or 2 seed. Like the playoffs might be determined at that point for the Dolphins. So maybe the Jets can get a win with the better wild card seeding for all we know. So there's a lot of questions, but you feel a lot better with the Jets if they can get to 7 wins as opposed to walking out with just 6. And again, guys, if you have any questions, make sure to chime in. I will get to all your questions. If you're joining us after, make sure to put them in the comments. I will get to them after. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's get us trending on YouTube. Let's try to get as many people and as many Jet fans involved. Is our biggest weakness, but I also like the continuity file for growth. Happy to see Herbig in over LDT and Mitchell if they can keep it together. Continuity is a part of it, but also I think Mitchell's a better player, and Mitchell has played next to Herbig. They did it in Pittsburgh. Like I get the continuity. It's a hard balance because you want continuity, but you also need the best players out there. And I think Mitchell has proven that he's a capable starting right tackle. And while Cedric has done a commendable job at right tackle, I mean, there's a reason he was on the Texans practice squad. I mean, there's a big difference. And look, I hope Herbert can continue to remain healthy, but I mean, let's be honest. Like, you want the best ones out there. Like, I even was saying at one point, and I don't think this will happen now, but if George Fant was 100% healthy, I would start Fant over Dwayne Brown, because Brown, while he's been solid at left tackle, you can tell he's not 100%. He's banged up, and you wonder if maybe they could give him rest for a couple weeks, and maybe that might help a little bit. But for my estimation now with Fant, if I had to put a guess on it, I don't think you're going to see him again this year, or at the very least for another 2 or 3 weeks, because it just doesn't seem like he's coming back. But at least with Mitchell, it does seem like Mitchell's coming back. And Mitchell, I think, will be a big upgrade. And look, you move Cedric down to the backup tackle position, where I think he's a good addition. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, I think they now have 2 very nice depth pieces. Like, if you need them in a pinch and you need them to start, you know that they can hold the fort. So, like, look, I think Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is a much better player than Dan Feeney. I know Feeney is a fan favorite, but look, I think Duvernay-Tardif is he's a much better player because of the way he can go out, the way he can seal off the running game. He's a good pass blocker. And the Jets' offensive line, never forget this, the Jets' offensive line changed the most when he was out there last year, because the revolving door at right guard was so egregious with Greg Van Roten that by getting a piece like Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who isn't a great guard, but he's a good guard, he's not a liability. So the Jets now have gotten 2 pieces I think are not liabilities. Now we'll have to see. Do you think Laurent Duvernay-Tardif LDT is better than Remmers? The problem is, like, Remmers has played more tackle position. I would say Remmers, because he's younger, has a bit more of a track, but LDT, right, I think is a better player. I think he's proven that he can be a starting caliber offensive lineman in the NFL. So Remmers, like, my big thing is I think Laurent Duvernay-Tardif could be on 32 rosters in the NFL. I'm not sure how many rosters Remmers would be on. Yeah, I know but they only had, I think, 15, 16 attempts. So they need to continue to stick with the run. Like, even if it's not sexy, even if it's causing drives to stall, like, I'd rather have them stick with the run, use more and more in the run, use Berrios more in the run, just wear out that Patriot defense, get them on their heels, like, get them physical. And, like, that's the thing too with Zach. I want to see him run the ball more. I mean, he had some nice runs against the Bills defense last week. So if you're able to open up that running game, it opens up this passing game. So look, they have to balance it out. And there are times they get too pass happy. With Flacco, drove me nuts. I thought they were way too pass happy the first 3 weeks. Like, I get LaFleur. I know LaFleur likes the pass plays. I know that they're trying to show off Zach. I know that they're trying to get Zach into a rhythm. But, I mean, the Jets are at their best when they're running the football down your throat. And that's what they got to stick with. I may be delusional, but I'm hoping before the Buffalo game. You're not delusional. You're not, because I think they're going to beat the Bears and the Vikings. Vikings are a weird team, man. Vikings are the weirdest one-loss team I've ever seen. Because yes, I keep going back to this last week, which is people like the Vikings won. The Bills lost that game, man. The Bills, even if they take a safety in that play, they still can punt the ball and have a chance to win. Like, they basically gave that football game away, letting them convert on 4th down. I understand Jefferson had an unbelievable catch, but to me, I put that more on the Bills kind of blowing it than the Vikings winning it. But the Vikings, the other thing too, I'm hoping that gets flexed to Sunday Night Football, because I'd rather have the 8 o'clock Kirk Cousins than the 1 o'clock MVP Kirk Cousins. And look, NBC, you want marquee matchups? Sauce Gardner, Justin Jefferson. Boom. You're welcome. If Zach does not pull Josh Allen, we should win. Yeah, Josh Allen has not been good. And look, I was saying this whole offseason where everyone's like, the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I'm like, wait, they have some issues and they've come back to haunt them. I said my 2 biggest issues with the Bills were how would Josh Allen respond without Brian Dable, and how would they do without a great running game? Because I don't think they have a good running game. And part of the thing I've seen with Allen over my years is, yes, he's their best running threat, which is great in September, October. But when we start getting to November, and you saw it at times even last year, that he was getting tired, he was getting worn out. And with that style, I kept saying I would be worried how long Allen could last. He doesn't seem fully healthy right now because of all the running. And look, I think Dable kept him on a leash. I think Dable was a very good person in that organization that helped rein him in. Because when you have that talent like that, a lot of times these guys want to show off and feel like they can get away with everything. And you've seen with the Giants, they don't turn the football over. Brian Dable has pounded that into Daniel Jones's skull. Don't turn the freaking football over. And now Allen's been kind of careless, kind of being a little flashy, and it's come back to haunt them. Now, it will be interesting because they do get that weird game in Detroit, then they play on Thanksgiving. I mean, NFL, I know it's tradition. Can we get the Lions off of freaking Thanksgiving? And also, can we, if you're going to put the crappy Lions on, can you at least put another crappy team or the Bears or someone entertaining? Because the Bills, I think, could sleepwalk to a victory in that games. JD spoke to me about and said AVT and Breeze hadn't had surgery yet. That seemed, but no, it's not weird because Braden, one of the new practices they've been finding is they've delayed the surgery, and what they're doing is instead of immediate surgery, what they've been doing is extensive rehab. It's been a new practice I've seen worked well with these kind of surgeries where they rehab the injury, they rehab the muscles around the injury, around the infected area. So by the time you go into surgery, it helps reduce the recovery process, and it also helps with the parts around the muscle being stronger. Plus, too, there's going to be a couple week layoff when they have to go on the surgery. So, look, I think the Jets are handling it very well. There's so many injuries in the NFL, and I know they're frustrating. But look, I'm glad you brought that up. But from what I've been reading from my research, you've seen a lot of teams now doing that. They opt for like almost a month or two recovery before the surgery. So it seems like a new practice that's been going on in professional sports, and the results seem to be working very well. So I'm glad you brought that up, Braden. Yeah, well, Buffalo game already got moved for this week. I mean, 6 feet of snow. I mean, personally, I would love to see it in the snow because I love a good all snow games. Bills are missing B Dubs badly. LOL. I'm guessing you mean Brian Dable. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting too with Joe Shane, because Joe Shane is going to be very intriguing because the Bills now, you see, like, it's easy when you're not a great team, when you have the higher draft picks and when you have a great staff around you, but now you take away Shane, you wonder how much of the player personnel in the draft process he went to. And you wonder how they're going to be able to draft, because the Bills are going to be another high draft pick. They're now going to have to draft really well with Josh Allen's new big contract. They're not going to have as much wiggle room up there in Buffalo. And look, it's not going to be easy for Buffalo because you have a good young Jets team. You have a good young Dolphins team. I mean, you have talent in this division. Like, the AFC East is the only division without a losing record team right now. And they're the best division in football. Like, I know people in the AFC East will argue, but I mean, the Giants and the Cowboys, like, they've been good stories, but I think more talented. Like, if you were to tell me, like, what division, top to bottom, is the most talented rosters, maybe not with the quarterbacks, but just rosters 1, 2 through 53. If we take out the quarterbacks, I think the AFC East has got to be up there, just with how well they're doing. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that's the research. Like, I know Douglas had mentioned that a bit too. And look, it's seemingly like it helps shorten the process. And I know everyone's like immediately like, get under the knife, get the knife, get the knife. But I mean, even Mekhi Becton, because Mekhi Becton, if memory serves, I believe it was like 3 weeks after his injury when he finally got the surgery out in California. So it does seem like with the practices now that they're not immediately going under the knife. They're trying to extend that period. I mean, let's put it this way. They get paid a lot more money than I do, and they have a lot more medical expertise than I do. So it seems like a new practice. It seems to have been going well, so that's why they're doing those medical issues. But look, I mean, there's a lot of medical issues still around this team. Nate Herbig, of course, they're saying has an injury that he'll have to probably play through the remainder of the year with the shin injury. Will probably be something he'll have to monitor the rest of the season. That's why one of the reasons I think Laurent Duvernay-Tardif really, really push for that to make sure that he was on this roster. Because as we get close to the postseason, I mean, they're really, you saw it too. The Jets put in that waiver claim for the Raider former first round pick that was cut. He ended up going to a different team because now the Jets, because of their record, they're not going to be higher in the waiver priority order. So it's going to be harder for them if someone does get cut for them to be a high enough waiver order to get them. And also at this point, like it's thin pickings, and teams are also, even the playoff runs, they're scrambling to find bodies at this point with all the injuries we've had in the NFL this year. So we'll have to see. But again, guys, chat's open. Gonna have this for a couple more minutes. See if you guys have any questions about the Patriot game, about the Jets in general. Would love to answer your questions, any comments, any concerns, any thoughts about Saleh's press conference, any thoughts about some of the news that's been coming out around the Jets, the health of the Jets, and more. And of course, make sure to join us on Sunday after the Patriot game, where we will go live immediately after the game to discuss the game, break it down, look forward for the Jets this season, and of course, preview the upcoming game. Do you think Mims gets his first touchdown this week? I'd like that. I'd like it too. It's just going to be hard. I just don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think the Bears game, I don't think the Bears have a good defense. I think you're more likely to see a little bit more scoring in that game. I do think you're going to see at least 2 or 3 plays try to take a shot with Mims because Davis isn't out there. You know they're going to be covering Garrett Wilson. There was a couple times, if you watch the film, Mims was getting a step. They took a shot. Mims couldn't come down with it. Last week, they're taking their shots with Mims. Like, they know he's their deep threat right now. Like, Garrett Wilson can stretch the field. Elijah Moore can, but they're not as big and as vertical as Mims on the outside. So I still think you're going to see them get the ball quick, attack underneath. But if they get around the midfield, look, I'm taking a shot at the end zone. Because one of my things, too, is like, if you're at midfield and if you take a shot at the end zone, even if it's picked off in the end zone, I don't think that's as bad as an interception. Now, I know interceptions are not great, but the way I look at it is, yes, you'd like to get some points there, but if you get thrown in the end zone or near the goal line and it's deep in their own territory for that offense, or they have to start with the ball on the 20, it basically would have been a punt. And it's not ideal, but at least you're also showing that defense, hey, we're willing to go over the top. Like, we're willing to stretch the field. And that, what that does is it pushes the safeties back, opens up the running room. And if those safeties come up, can you take that shot down the field? Can you push the ball? And where Mims was also lining up too was interesting. Well, they were lining him up not necessarily just on the outside. They were lining him close to the line of scrimmage because they love his blocking ability. And the Jets, they don't have like if you notice their exit receiver, they don't usually have them all the way out like on the sideline. They're close to the hash and they want them in there to block. So what that does is maybe you could see him sneaking up the seam right there. Maybe there's a play where if Zach can see, maybe a linebacker's put on Mims in the coverage, or, you know, they overload the side of the field with like the tight ends on the right side and Mims is on the left. Maybe they get a one-on-one and they can take a shot. And look, for the Patriots, I think they're going to leave Mims on one. They're going to prove it because, again, we love Mims. We love the potential, but Mims also hasn't scored a touchdown in his NFL career. So until that happens and until he really makes that huge dynamic play, they're going to leave him one-on-one because they're not going to let Garrett Wilson beat him because they've seen Garrett Wilson. He made some big plays in the first game. They know he's the Jets' best receiver. They're basically going to take him out, and I really believe they're going to say, okay, try to run the ball down our throat. Can Zach Wilson make enough plays? Can Zach not turn the football over? And can Elijah Moore or a Braxton Berrios or a Denzel Mims step up? And look, we're going to find out. We're going to find out because this is a week 2 where on this offense, you're going to need someone to step up for this Jet team. And who's going to be that guy? I really think you're going to find out who one of those players is going to be this week. All right, guys, let's get some final comments in here. Any other questions before we head out today? Let me know. I'm going to leave this chat open for a second for final thoughts, final questions. Get them in here. And, of course, if you join us after the live stream, Apologies, you couldn't be here during the live stream. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next live stream. But if you have a good question, put it in the comments. I will get to it in the next video. Because again, you guys help make the content for this channel. Gotta go paint the house. You better be painted green, man. Or I guess the Jets don't wear green anymore. Black would be an intriguing color. I mean, it would help bring out the shutters, I guess, if you did like a white shutter or something. So, yeah, hopefully it's warm where you are, Braden. I hope you're with New York Jets, Florida, and hope the weather's not like 10 degrees outside when you're painting. But yeah, go have fun painting that house, man. Any other questions before we get out? Again, guys, you were awesome. We will see you on Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us here on Rich Sports Talk. We'll see you next time.